When something outside causes distress, it's not the thing itself that troubles us, but rather our judgment about it. This insight comes from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, known for his wisdom, who penned these thoughts in his diary. The core principle of practical Stoicism is this: we don't react directly to events, but to our interpretations of them, and these interpretations are within our control. Simply put, Stoicism teaches us that our pleasures, pains, desires, and fears involve more than just the event and our reaction. They also encompass our judgment or opinion about the event before we react. Our job is to recognize this middle step, understand its common irrationality, and guide it with reason. Often, our responses to events seem immediate and instinctual, without apparent judgment. Yet, the Stoics believe this to be a falsehood, an illusion. The challenge lies in recognizing that the mind is not always a reliable narrator when it comes to why we react the way we do to external events. It often convinces us that our reactions stem from external factors rather than our own minds. We must learn to see and describe our own role more accurately. In Stoicism, we strive to refine our thinking about our thoughts, teaching the mind to understand itself better and becoming more aware of our mental processes. Consider this. Someone insults you. The insult itself holds no inherent power. It's how you choose to interpret it that matters. If you feel offended, it's because you've made a judgment about it. In essence, you're passing a judgment. Instead, you could choose not to, and thus the insult would lose its sting. This principle applies to all forms of discomfort in life, be it noisy neighbors, bad weather, or traffic jams. If these things bother you, it's because of the judgments you make about them, which may be negative, significant, or expected. Events themselves don't force our reactions. It's our judgments that shape our responses. Understanding this is key. We often feel like we're at the mercy of external circumstances, but in reality, we're creating our own experiences within ourselves. Changing ourselves is often more effective than trying to change the world around us. The idea that our reactions depend on our judgments may seem strange, especially if we think of judgments as conscious and rational, but judgments can take many forms and may not always be obvious to us. For instance, if you conclude that spiders aren't dangerous, yet you still fear them, it shows that your fear is there regardless of any opinion you may have about spiders. This doesn't just mean you have conflicting judgments about whether spiders pose a threat or not. Historians sometimes include everything we bring into the world when we're born through the lens of judgments. The absence or presence of appetite that makes a dish of food seem better or worse. A lifetime of conditioning that produces the same effect on a broader scale. Among all the forms our judgments can take: conscious opinions, unconscious biases, conditioned responses, chemical exposures, genetic tendencies, and so on. And how some of these factors can be more easily changed than others. Nevertheless, yes, they recognized some hurdles. Historians of Stoicism argue that some reactions are rooted in elements beyond our control, while others are shaped by inherent temperament. The aim, however, remains consistent: to heighten awareness of our judgments and exert as much control over them as possible. These historians emphasize that our ability to reshape experiences through altering our thoughts is far greater than commonly assumed. They offer compelling arguments rather than expecting blind faith. By examining everyday examples like insults, they illustrate how our reactions hinge on the weight we assign to them, challenging us to reconsider seemingly inevitable responses. However, they often use comparisons to reinforce their arguments. They observe the different ways people react to the same events in different circumstances, times, and places. What some fear while others don't, what sometimes is a valid sacrifice, and to others, simply nothing. Pain, sorrow, sadness, distress, discomfort that seems like a heavy burden for us is experienced very differently among individuals. Someone with more experience is accustomed to living a busy life with an intense routine. Discomfort has become normal, something they're used to. In contrast, someone just starting out wakes up early, studies, works, trains, and so on. Clearly, our reactions are not inevitable after all. but in some way, they are our own creation and depend on our judgments, and therefore, we have the ability to change them. The Stoics suggest that our experiences, including our joys and sorrows, are not solely determined by external events, but by our interpretations of them, our judgments or opinions. According to Cicero, our reactions to events are fundamentally shaped by our perceptions of good and evil. Therefore, when we encounter obstacles or setbacks, we shouldn't blame external factors, but rather examine our own opinions. This principle highlights that our suffering often stems not from the events themselves, but from how we perceive and judge them. It underscores the importance of actively shaping our perspectives to cultivate inner peace and resilience. Lust is an opinion about a future good that would be better if it were already here. This is what Cicero says: "For what are lamentation and wailing? Opinion. What is misfortune? Opinion. What is discord? Disagreement, guilt, accusation, impiety, foolishness, all opinions and nothing more." People are not disturbed by things that happen, but by their opinions about those things. For example, death is not at all dreadful. If it were, it would have appeared to Socrates as well. Instead, the opinion that death is dreadful, that indeed is the dreadful thing. The Stoics teach us to elevate our lives above the mundane by recognizing the transient nature of human existence. While these teachings may seem to advocate detachment, their goal is not emptiness, but rather clarity of thought and freedom from erroneous judgments. It's essential to remember that the Stoics, including figures like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, were not advocating for a passive or simple existence. Instead, they held positions of significant power and influence, demonstrating that Stoicism is compatible with active engagement in the world. By acknowledging that our reactions to events are shaped by our perceptions and judgments, Stoicism encourages us to examine our thought processes more closely. It prompts us to consider how our interpretations of events influence our emotional responses and empowers us to choose more constructive ways of thinking and acting. Therefore, when we are hindered, upset, or offended, let's never blame others but ourselves. That is, our opinions. In other words, we're not tormented by things themselves, but by the opinions we hold about them. If evils have no way of entering us except through the judgments we make of them, then, apparently, it's within our power to reject them or transform them into good. The Stoic philosophy challenges us to take responsibility for our own thoughts and reactions. Rather than attributing our distress to external circumstances, we are urged to examine the judgments we make about events. According to Stoicism, our interpretations of events as good or bad are subjective and can be altered. By recognizing the power of our opinions, we gain the ability to transform our experiences and find peace within ourselves. This foundational principle invites us to consider the role of perception in shaping our reality. It suggests that by adopting a mindset focused on rationality and acceptance, we can navigate life's challenges with greater resilience and clarity of mind. What's important is to elevate our life far above casual occurrences. If you ever think there's a risk that these phrases might seem to encourage a kind of emptiness, however, the historical objective is not to empty the mind, but to rid it of folly and errors in judgment. It's important to remember that none of the historians we've mentioned here until now sought a stagnant life, a withdrawn life, or even simplicity. Indeed, each of them, at the time, was a representative of the most powerful people on the planet. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of transcending transient disturbances and embracing a broader perspective on life. Rather than succumbing to the sway of fleeting events, Stoics advocate for a deeper understanding of our own perceptions and judgments. By recognizing that our responses to external stimuli are influenced by our interpretations, Stoicism invites us to cultivate inner fortitude and wisdom. It teaches us to distinguish between the inherent nature of events and our subjective reactions to them. Seneca says this, who also put it in a very concrete way for us to understand. We are more sensitive to a cut made by a surgeon's scalpel than to 10 sword wounds in the heat of battle. When everyone shares a weakness, it no longer seems like a weakness, but rather something normal about us. The Stoic philosophy urges us to acknowledge the distinction between external events and our internal responses to them. It reminds us that our interpretations and judgments play a pivotal role in shaping our emotional experiences. Whether we perceive something as good or bad largely depends on our perspective and mindset. By understanding this principle, we gain agency over our own reactions and can actively choose how to interpret the events unfolding around us. In essence, Stoicism teaches us to cultivate a mindset of resilience and self-awareness. Rather than being passive recipients of circumstance, we become active participants in shaping our own inner peace and well-being. Will you, facing some kind of pain, scream? Will you not instead endure it with determination and firmness without crying? By recognizing that our interpretations of events hold significant power, Stoicism empowers us to reframe our perspectives and find meaning in adversity. This shift in mindset allows us to navigate life's challenges with greater clarity and equanimity. Cicero's insight underscores the power of perception and familiarity in shaping our experiences. What many endure across diverse circumstances highlights the influence of social norms and personal conditioning. We often find behaviors or situations acceptable or inevitable simply because they align with what we've observed or experienced before. However, Cicero suggests that breaking the spell of familiarity requires a conscious effort. By examining the diverse reactions to common experiences, we can challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of what is possible or acceptable. This broader perspective enables us to question ingrained beliefs and embrace new interpretations, ultimately freeing ourselves from the constraints of habit and convention. In essence, Stoicism serves as a practical philosophy for living, guiding us to embrace life's uncertainties with resilience and wisdom. It reminds us that while we may not always have control over external circumstances, we possess the ability to shape our internal landscape and cultivate inner peace.